For more, we now turn to Philip Rucker from the White House Bureau. He's the White House Bureau Chief, rather, for the Washington Post. Hey, Philip, thanks for joining us. Listen, we hear this AP report that talks about, rounding up these National Guards, 100,000 of them being mobilized. But then very quickly, the White House comes out and strongly denies that this is accurate. What do you make of what's going on right now with this back and forth?
Well, what the Associated Press reported is based on a draft that had been circulating among some of the federal agencies here in Washington, and the draft plan would have been for this 100,000 National Guard troops to round up undocumented immigrants, illegal immigrants. That is just a draft. Now, the White House is saying that is not true, that there is no plan to round up these immigrants. But what we can tell you is it is consistent with the campaign promises that Donald Trump made on the campaign trail as a candidate. He talked repeatedly about rounding up illegal immigrants who are not here legally, who are committing crimes or doing other things, getting in the way of sort of a good American life, as he would put it, on the campaign trail. And so it's not surprising that this idea would be floated in a draft form at some of these agencies. But again, the White House is maintaining this morning that it is not an idea that's going to actually be enacted.
Okay, Philip, I just want to say what we've heard that Sean Spicer has said in response to this AP report, which was that it was 100% not true. It is false. And he actually called it irresponsible to be saying that it was accurate. And he says that this is not a White House document. So some pretty strong words, and they came out pretty much almost immediately. Still, we're living in an environment a time when you hear something like that, it created a flurry of activity online. People became very concerned. Talk to me about the climate that we're in right now.
Well, there's a lot of fear in immigrant communities around the country, and my colleagues at the Washington Post, and I know CBS News and other outlets have been covering this across the country on the ground. People are afraid of what President Trump and his administration will do. He campaigned very aggressively against illegal immigration and vowed to put an end to it and vowed to deport people who are not supposed to be here. And so now that he's president, there's a lot of anticipation out there in the country about what exactly the administration will do, what actual steps they will take to address this situation. Now, there's the issue of DACA, the Deferred Action Plan for Children, the Dreamers, who come here as children of undocumented parents. And the president so far has deferred any sort of ruling on DACA, whether to continue it or try to get rid of it. So we're waiting for an announcement from the White House about what they will do about DACA here, maybe in the next few weeks, maybe not for a few months, but it speaks to the anxiety out there in the country.
Philip, you mentioned that this is rhetoric that the president used while he was campaigning, and yet Paul Ryan, when he was asked about this during a CNN town hall, he addressed a family of folks that were undocumented. He said this: "We want to be able to secure our border. When people get confidence in this country that our border is secured, that our laws are being enforced, and I really believe all people in this country will be in a much better position to fix these thornier, bigger problems." But he went on to say, and this is the point that I want to make for our viewers, but if you are worried about some sort of deportation force knocking on your door, don't worry about that. So Speaker Ryan saying, in this instance very forcefully, that there will not be any kind of force, whether it's the National Guard or other, coming to the doors of folks like Dreamers, for example. But is that what your understanding is, how the president and his administration feels?
As of now, and that's an important message that Speaker Ryan conveyed, but we have to remember he's the Speaker of the House, he's not the President of the United States. President Trump has not given that assurance yet. He's had much more nuanced and ambiguous language when he's talking about what he would do about deportations, including of children. And like I said earlier, he's delayed a decision here on DACA. They've not yet, the White House has not yet said what it will do, what it intends to do over the long term to deal with this situation. And so that's the reason why there's so much anxiety. It's the reason there's uncertainty, and it's the reason why when you see a headline like the Associated Press just had about the National Guard troops, you have such an immediate reaction online and all around the country.
Yeah, in fact, during yesterday's press conference, he was asked about DACA, and he said it's it's very, very difficult situation. He said he's not talking about any new laws, but trying to figure out what to do with the laws that are already in place. But he really didn't have a plan of action other than to say it's very difficult. You wrote an article about the news conference, and you had something really interesting to say. You said Trump, quote, gave the legions of Americans who put him in office just what they wanted to see, which is to demonstrate that he is the boss. Explain that comment, because many people characterize that press conference in a multitude of different ways, ranging from unhinged to odd, unorthodox. You said he looks like the boss to at least the people who support him.
To the people who support him, and there's a real distinction. I think people in Washington were truly alarmed by that press conference. I think the senators, even Republican senators on Capitol Hill, were frankly somewhat horrified by what they saw from the president. But that performance that Trump gave yesterday is exactly why the people who voted for him wanted to send him to Washington. He breaks China. He sticks it to the press. He bosses people around. He sort of shows that he's in command and control, and that's what he did. It's something that his spokespeople like Sean Spicer and Kellyanne Conway and others over the last few weeks have not been able to do as effectively. And I think Donald Trump just wanted to try to regain control of his own storyline here. That's why he called for this press conference. That's why he stayed up there so long, took so many questions. He may have had falsehoods. He may have been rude. He may have veered with his emotions every which way. But I think for his supporters, for that 40–45% of Americans out there, I think they liked what they saw.
So you think that this was a more formal tactic then? It was a deliberate, this presentation, perhaps falling in line with now his something as similar to a campaign stop that he'll be doing over the weekend in Florida, that it's all sort of part of bringing back the people who got him into office, bringing them closer?
I do. I do. He's had a very troubling first 4 weeks of the administration, and he's been on the defensive on so many issues, on that travel ban executive order, on the National Security Council chaos, on the resignation of his national security advisor, and so forth. And I think this was his attempt to get back on offense, to show that he's sort of show people what he really thinks, show that he's in charge, and then get back out there on the campaign trail. He gets invigorated by those rallies. He's expecting to have a big crowd on Saturday in the Orlando area in Florida, and I think it'll give him a little energy and get him back in sort of a fighting spirit. He likes to be sparring with somebody, and when you're cooped up in the White House, there's nobody really to fight with. But when you get out there at a press conference, you're able to fight with the media, and then at the rally, you can fight with the media and your opponents, and it's back to the campaign.
He certainly seems to relish that. Philip, I want to ask you about former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. He told the FBI that he did not discuss sanctions with the Russian ambassador. From your part, or from where you sit, what are the open questions about this?
Yeah, so that's a bit of reporting from my colleagues here at the Post that Michael Flynn did not actually disclose that to the FBI. It raises a lot of legal questions. If you are found to have lied to the FBI in the course of an investigation, there is legal liability. That is illegal, and charges can be pressed against you. It's unclear, when you start parsing these words, what exactly Flynn did. Did he lie, or did he just not give the full information, or did he mention a conversation but didn't use the right words? I think all of these are questions that Flynn and presumably his lawyers are going to have to now answer. But it is certainly an indication that this Flynn controversy is not over with his ouster. It's going to go on for weeks and maybe even months to come in the form of congressional investigations, as well as certainly the FBI trying to get to the bottom of that conversation and determine whether to press charges.
Philip Rucker, thank you so much.
Thank you.